Hi, I'm Genevieve Griffin, and I'm from Small Steps, Go Places, and this is our Going to College 101 August interview with Liz Saporito. And the August interview is about getting ready for the fall. But this is a real treat because Liz is a school counselor. So I think school counselors are great. And I'm really looking forward, Liz, to interviewing you. I give scholarships to my old high school. And one of the questions on the application that I've come up with is, what did you want to be in kindergarten? Because I really think that what we truly want to do in our lives starts much earlier than in high school. And when I was thinking about questions to ask you, one of the first questions that I'm going to ask you is, how would you define the role of a school counselor in high school? And I'm like, wow, this is so great because you're doing something and you're not looking ahead into the future. So welcome, Liz.
Thank you. Yes.
Kind of went right into this. Welcome. And thank you for doing this interview. And how would you define the role of a school counselor?
Yeah, it's not an easy thing to define, but I would say, generally it's really just a, person in the school building who's working with students of various age levels. I work with high school, but you can work with any age level. And just to help students, develop goals for themselves. So I always think, goals in terms of college and career counseling, goals in terms of students' academics, goals in terms of some of their social emotional, if they're having, concerns there, and just kind of helping students to develop goals, create those steps, and then see those goals through is sort of the general, I'd say, overview of what a school counselor is, what they do.
Why are you a school counselor?
It's a very good question. I always knew I wanted to be in a helping profession. I always, I like talking to people. I like interacting with people. I would not have done well, just kind of sitting at a desk looking at a computer all day. So I always knew that I wanted to work with people, especially I do like the adolescent age group. So I had originally thought I wanted to be a school social worker, but as I learned more about school counseling, I realized that, doing the college and career and that, the more academic piece was something that I really would enjoy. And so, like I said, I do like the adolescent population. So that's sort of what drove me, towards high school counseling.
And so it sounds like your current role is what you planned for and what you understood school counseling was going to be.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. I actually even interned at the current school that I'm at. So I was very familiar with what they did. And then it sort of just hooked me more, just sort of once I got in there and sort of started getting experience, it was just, there was really no question.
So you work at the high school level and you interned from college, and you've been working at this specific high school. Mm-hmm. Do you ever go out for happy hour with other school counselors and compare notes with people who are in different?
Sometimes, not necessarily but I do try to touch base with other counselors. Yeah. And it's sometimes nice to hear, there's a network of other counselors in the same area that I'm in, and we connect from time to time. And it's always nice to know they're kind of dealing with the same things that I am, they're, some of their problems are similar to what I've experienced, or if I share something, they've experienced it too. So that's always comforting to know, because sometimes when you're, in your own environment, you think, oh, this is just us. This is just our school, it's just like these students, but it's, everyone kind of experiences the same thing, which is always nice to hear.
That's true. And from my perspective, so I live in the Northeast now. And I failed to mention, I'm sorry, on the front end, you are a school counselor who works in the Bronx. And for those of you who are not familiar with New York City, there's 5 boroughs, and one of those is the Bronx. I know school counselors not only in the Northeast, in New York State and other states in the Northeast, but also in the Midwest and out on the West Coast. And there are different issues that happen. And it would be great to think about one big table with a lot of school counselors. I think about one big table with a lot of students, but one big table with a lot of school counselors around it also talking. That's an interesting picture sometimes.
Yes.
So, going back to school this fall is not going to be business as usual.
Yes.
There's that commercial with Captain Obvious. So this is Genevieve Obvious. Yes, going back to school is not going to be business as usual. But I want to go back to pre-COVID. Boy, we've been spending so much time and energy for obvious reasons on COVID. And I really think it's important that we keep hold of those things that were working and that were important to us before all of this happened, because that's going to help us move through. So pre-COVID, what is a challenge and a win that you felt that you had either with the students or the families that you're working with?
Yeah. I would say a win would be, it's not even really me personally, but even just watching students kind of grow. I can't say necessarily even that I do, sometimes students are just sort of evolve on their own, but it's always nice to, watch a student from freshman year and just how they change, especially, socially, if they branch out more, and they sort of, really evolve throughout high school to then, kind of be this, super involved student, in their senior year who really have a handle on their academics or, enjoying going to school, kind of watching those students grow it's very rewarding, and it sort of helps validate, okay, this is all worth it, this is why I'm here, is to watch these students, become the young adults that they're headed to being. So that's always, rewarding and nice to see, from year to year, and watching everyone mature. So that's always a good thing. But then in terms of the challenges, I would say, and there are a few challenges that we face, but I would say sometimes, getting students to focus is sometimes a challenge, certain students, getting them to understand, what in terms of setting their goals, in terms of making sure that they're kind of staying on track and not getting distracted. It's a very, society now, there's a lot going on, even pre-COVID, there's a lot going on in teenagers' lives. So I would say kind of getting them to, focus on their goals and getting them to, want to take steps, necessary, and then also getting, their families involved and making sure they're on the same page, which is not always the case. So I think those are always a challenge.
So how do you guess the regulations and continuing uncertainty is going to impact?
Yeah, in terms of, hopefully the students will be able to be back in the building, but I think that's what's hard, with students socially distancing these past few months, not being able to really interact with each other. I think that's been hard on the students. And so I think even going back, that kind of aspect of school is going to be a little bit different. And then, so some of those students that, really struggled freshman year, but then, were building their way up and making all these great friends and connections, that's going to be a little harder for those students coming back in the fall. Like I said, hopefully we'll be able to be in the building, so they'll at least still have some interaction. But I think it's also, from my standpoint, trying to figure out ways of how to get students involved and engaged, even if it's virtually, so I think trying to come up with, ways to kind of create that sense of school community still, even if it's not the same, because I think that's important in high school, and especially at our school, it's a smaller school, so that sense of community is very important. So trying to maintain that, through whether we're hybrid or distant learning or whatever it may be, making sure that students are still maintaining those social connections. And then in terms of, with getting the students focused, that's also going to be a challenge. Like I said, hopefully I'll be able to be in the building, kind of grab them or, make sure that they're doing what they need to do. Hopefully they'll still be able, I'll still be able to meet with them. And that we'll be able to kind of maintain going back to our regular, okay, we're going to set up meetings and do that. But even if we have to do it virtually, just making sure that students maintain their engagement. And also parent engagement is going to be a challenge. Parents have a lot going on, parents are working, they're trying to deal with everything, going on. Sometimes there's younger siblings or, older generations in a household. So just sort of making sure that they're also, focused on what's going on, in school. So it'll be a challenge. But I think, at least we had a little bit of a head start in the spring. So, hopefully the fall, things will just sort of fall into place. Everyone will be used to it and they'll, be able to move forward.
You've done a really, really nice job with my my next question.
Yeah.
I was going to say, getting people's attention beforehand, but you've laid that out really, 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 really nicely. I have a friend who is the director of a toddler center, and she had to take the toddler center online. And what you're talking about is connected to the toddler center and probably to everybody else. With toddlers need everything to be the same so that their expectations, are the door opens. In this case, they would visit the dollies and fish, and say, the fish are here, they're going to be here when you come back, sort of thing. And I think you're absolutely right. You set what was going to happen in the spring. And so whether students and families like that or don't like that, I mean, none of us, it doesn't matter if we like it or we don't like it. It is very important to accept where you are right now. So it won't be a new thing.
Right.
And so that's really awesome. So you have a foundation to build on. So with that in mind, so do you work mainly with the upper class people?
I'm the only school counselor in my building, so I have all grade levels. So a little bit of everybody.
Wow. So I was going to say for upper class people, what is an essential thing that they need to bring with them into the fall, but I'm going to change that a little bit.
Okay.
It's fine. You got this because you have the experience. So I'm going to go 9 through 12. Do you want me to start with 12 and go back, or do you want me to start with 9 and go up?
Either or. I think I could do either or.
Well, let's start with 12 because that is where so many people have been focused since the ending of school in the summer. Colleges, graduations, tests, grades. I just over and over and over and over and over again. So I'm going to back it up to students that are rising seniors. I know you have seniors that are headed to college, and that's just a whole right now. None of us really, we're all waiting for that. But for your rising seniors who are going to be in the building one way or the other, what is an essential that you would suggest to them?
I mean, I would just for them, I know I said this a lot through this interview, but just to stay focused. I think not being able to visit colleges, not, taking the SAT, their head might not be in the same place, whereas in the past incoming seniors, had already taken all these steps before starting senior year. So I just, for them to just stay focused on their goals, maintain their research, and just kind of keep college in the forefront. I know there's a lot of other things, it's getting back into the swing of school, and, hopefully they'll be in the building and dealing with all the new stuff. But I think just remembering, college deadlines are still coming, so just sort of maintaining that, and that, what their ultimate goal is and what they need to do to get there, so if they were already thinking college, just to make sure that that kind of stays in the forefront when they're starting the school year. Because I think for some, it's sort of like remain to distant. Oh yeah, that's coming, so because they haven't had the preparation that some students in the past have had. So I think, just maintaining that focus on college in the beginning is going to be important.
All right, 11th graders.
For 11th graders, I would say for them, it's sort of maybe to focus on, them as a student, because they had this interruption last year, just sort of kind of getting back on track and maintaining, any sort of grades that they had, just sort of maintaining the being the strong student, trying to get involved, because again, a lot of activities were canceled in the spring, so just sort of trying to get back on track. Just as a high school student, I think is going to be a big thing.
Yeah, activities. Wow, that's just a whole different situation. 10th graders, rising 10th graders.
10th graders, they always have it tough. For them, I would say similar to 11th grade, I guess, is sort of just like maintaining, the new normal, if you will. So just sort of, what do they need to do as students, and again, freshman year for them was kind of cut short a little. So some of those, friendships, those connections, so sort of maintaining those, that might have gotten a little disjointed when we were home, and just sort of focusing on that. And again, same thing, just them as students trying to kind of reestablish themselves, or maybe, because freshman year was a little rocky, sophomore year is now going to be their time to shine. So, just sort of maintaining, I think, a positive attitude, after the start of their high school, kind of got a little.
10th grade, for me, everyone needs a t-shirt that says sink or swim, I'm swimming.
Right, yeah.
Yes, I really hear you that the usual preparation got cut short.
Yeah.
And those rising 9th graders.
Yeah, for them, it's not going to be easy. I think it's going to be a weird start, of the school year. But I think for them, and it's similar to what I'm sort of trying to tell the graduating seniors, is that they do still have the whole high school ahead of them. So maybe this year might be a little bit weird, but then, hopefully things moving forward in the future, they'll be able to kind of, get back on track to things, things a little bit more the old normal, I guess. So I think for them, it's just keeping an open mind. Just going with the flow, and trying to just stay as focused as possible, and yeah, I think just going with the flow is for them going to be trying to meet people as best they can, and like I said, hopefully they'll be in the building so that they can kind of make friends, meet their teachers. It's nerve-wracking for us all, because we don't even really know them. With the other students, we knew them. So with these students, usually we have orientation, we can get to know them. So hopefully we'll still be able to do those things, so that they'll be able to kind of start high school on a positive note.
That's a really interesting perspective that I have not thought about. Orientation, I'm very student-centric, so I'm thinking about, orientation, they get to meet people, they get to see how it feels, but that is the opportunity that you as the counselor in the school and the teachers that are going to be teaching the kids get to meet the kids and the families as well. And so that is also not, wow. That's kind of heavy.
Yeah. Hopefully we'll get something in.
Totally. Oh my goodness. What silver linings have you found, first of all, during this time from when everything started getting crazy in March to now? What silver linings have you found with students?
Mhm. I mean, a few things. Some students have really thrived with online learning. Students that were kind of struggling or having a tough time, even with things like attendance or showing up to school on time, that sort of was eliminated because they were home. They just had to log in, to their computer. So, some of them really did very well with the online learning. Also, just being in New York State, not having the regents, that was a big silver lining that helped out a lot of students. So, I can't complain about that. So, that helped out quite a few. So I think it's, I think some students did do okay. It wasn't easy, I think it was a struggle, but they really, rose to the occasion. So it was nice to see, that students weren't just unraveling, when we were home. They really, stepped up and they said, this is what I have to do, so I'm going to do it. And they did it well. So that was a good thing.
Oh, that's a great thing.
Yeah.
What about families?
I would say the family engagement, I think students had a lot more quality time. A lot of our students, had told me they didn't even really leave, not even their apartments or houses, even to go on walks. A lot of them were just home. We did have a lot of parents that were also working. So some students took on, some extra roles at home that they didn't have before. But I think, they got to spend a lot of quality time together. And sort of just reestablish that a little bit more.
And what about you personally? What is the silver lining for this crazy pandemic?
Well, I don't know. I would say I was working out a lot, so that's like a silver lining. Working out from home. We had also moved into a 2-bedroom apartment in the fall, just for more space, and we're very grateful that we had an extra bedroom during this time. So that was a positive. As sometimes we look around, do we need all this space? Well, during this time, we definitely did. So that was a good thing.
I hear you there. Our daughters, who are both college age, or actually one of them is a college graduate, the 4 of us were in the apartment in New York City together. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And we would all go to our own dinners and then have dinner together.
Yes. Yeah.
I would like to say we're all still talking to one another, and we have a great appreciation.
Yeah. Dinners at the table. That was a big thing, It was just like being able to sit at the table and eat dinner, That's something I think we took for granted before.
That is a big silver lining. Okay. I would like to ask you, because during my interviews, the last question is always, what is the takeaway question? Mm-hmm. And so I want to ask you to give me a takeaway for families and colleagues. And it doesn't have to be about mm-hmm. COVID. It can be if you mm-hmm. want.
Okay.
But what would that little
mm-hmm.
thing be for them?
Takeaway. I would say just and it has to do with COVID, I think, and just in general, is just, patience and flexibility. So I think we all, during this time, but I would say all the time, I think if we all kind of just can develop patience with one another, patience with everything going on, on our own patience with students, students' patience with faculty. I think patience, and also just flexibility, kind of being able to adapt and change. And I think that this time sort of helped everyone to do that a little, because everyone, like you said before, everyone was forced to. There was no choice. We all had to just kind of adapt to what was going on. So I think, kind of maintaining that, in the future, and especially with students as they're moving forward, thinking about college, and, it's an uncertain time. So I think just patience and flexibility as we move forward with our lives.
Becoming agile.
Yeah.
which is a huge strength.
Mm-hmm.
Foisted upon us.
Well, not easy.
Not easy. None of it has been easy.
Yeah.
Not at all. Thank you, Liz, so much. Sure. I really, really appreciate you taking the time to do the Going to College 101 August interview.
Sure. Happy to do it. Thanks for having me.
No worries. And may we all enter the fall with patience and a sense of flexibility, because even though it doesn't feel like this is going to end, mm-hmm. I'm pretty confident it will. Yeah. Just don't mm-hmm. know when.
Exactly.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.